Welcome to First Parish in Needham, a Unitarian Universalist congregation of humanists, theists, atheists, agnostics, seekers, and interfaith families. I am Kevin McCormick, and my wife Jane McKean and I have been coming to First Parish for about 7 years. I'm a member of the Pledge Drive team, and we'll be discussing more about the pledge in a few moments. You can learn more about all that's happening at First Parish by going to our website, uneedham.org, and signing up for our weekly email newsletter, or by following us on social media. Our order of service is online too, at the QR code in your pews and at the website, uneedham.updates.church. Please speak with our ushers, greeters, and Zoom hosts if you have questions or accessibility needs. At First Parish, we covenant to live out our shared values of the inherent worth and dignity of every person, respecting the earth and co-creating beloved community. Whoever you are, whoever you love, whatever your background or identity, whatever your age or stage, whether you walked in or rolled in, and wherever you're participating from, you are welcome here. Over the last few weeks, you have heard members of the congregation give testimonials from this lectern, or perhaps have seen other testimonials online on how First Parish has made a difference in their lives. In listening to these testimonials and being involved with the congregation, I am so impressed with how so many of you have given so much time and energy to all the committees and all the activities that help First Parish make a difference, both to this community and to the larger world. But in addition to your valuable time and energy, First Parish needs a certain amount of funding, which is where your pledge comes in. The Parish Committee will very soon be creating a budget for next year, which is based on how much has been pledged. Many of you have already responded to our pledge requests, and as a result, we're 37% of the way to our financial goal. We're thankful for those responses and so grateful for whatever you have pledged. Tomorrow, we'll be sending out emails to those of you who have not yet responded. And in the coming days, we'll be sending reminder emails, then making phone calls, and then texts. We'd rather not do this, and I'm sure you'd prefer we do not want to add to your existing emails and voicemails. So to avoid this, we're asking you to pledge as soon as you're able. There are many ways to pledge. You can mail or bring in the form you got in the mail. You can pledge online, contact any of the pledge team, myself, David Menard, or Bob DeNoble, or email Susanna at the office. We'd really appreciate your prompt response. Welcome again to everyone here in the building and online. We're so glad you're here.
As we light our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, we read words from Euro-American UU humanist minister, Reverend Dr. David Breeden. Welcome to this place where equity and justice transcend mere dreams, where they are the air we breathe. Enter this sanctuary, all who yearn for respite from a world rife with scarcity and inequity, rife with the relentless shackles of privilege and bias. Come embrace this space. Be embraced by this place, this refuge where scarcity and disparity dissolve into we, together, crafting a place where the breath of life is equity and justice, cherished, manifested, sustained. Our opening hymn, "Oh, I Woke Up This Morning," has words from pastor and freedom writer Reverend Osby, who rewrote the lyrics of the African-American enslavement era spiritual, "I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on Jesus," to become a protest song while he was jailed in Mississippi for traveling on an integrated bus of both black and white riders. Please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing, "Oh, I Woke Up This Morning." The lyrics are printed in your orders of service, they're on screen, and at number 153 in your gray hymnals.
In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, the covenant is a set of promises the membership of a congregation strives to honor with one another and out in the world. Whether we participate in our community online or in the building, we strive to live these promises every day. Please say along with me the words of our parish covenant as in the orders of your service. We gather as a loving community to encourage and comfort one another. We gather as a diverse community to support each other in our search for spiritual truth. We gather as a service community to live our beliefs through action and care for our world.
Sometimes you just have a little traffic jam up here. Only for a moment, though. Good morning. For those of you that don't know, I am Sarah Elizabeth, and I am the Director of Lifespan Religious Exploration here. A couple of weeks ago, we had intended to read the wonderful children's story, Big by Vashti Harrison, but then the book went missing. It was all very mysterious. But it has been found, and so we are going to bring that to you today. Before we start this story, I want to say that Vashti Harrison, a woman of color, a Black writer, wrote this book partially inspired by her own experience as a child. It has won not only the Caldecott Book Award, but also the Coretta Scott King Book Award. So I invite you to listen. I invite you to open yourself and hear and see the experience of this child. Once there was a girl with a big laugh and a big heart and very big dreams. She learned her ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. She always said please and thank you, and even put away all her toys. At dinner, she ate all her food. "What a big girl you are," the adults would say. And it was good. She grew and learned and laughed and dreamed. She grew and grew and grew. Kind, caring, considerate, compassionate, creative, free, fun, graceful, nimble, smart. She grew and grew and grew, and it was good until it wasn't. "You're a big girl, aren't you?" One day, something on the playground happened. They were all on the swings. "I can't wait for the recital," one girl said. "I'm going to be a bee. I'm going to be a daisy," said another. She felt herself stuck in the swing. Help. Oh my God. Look, she's stuck. Moo. More like a moose. Wail. You could have hurt someone. Don't you think you're too big for that? "You're in big trouble," said the teacher on the playground. It made her feel small. The words stung and were hard to shake off. She began to feel not herself, out of place, exposed, judged, yet invisible. Everyone had advice. "That outfit's no good. Let's try this instead." But this hurt too. "Oh, your position is the mountain. This is perfect for you," while all the other girls dance in their daisy and flower and bee costumes. The flower costume won't fit. You're just too big. Where are you going? What did I say? Aren't you too big to be crying? Have you tried being smaller? Why can't you just fit in? One day, she finally let it all out. She cried and she cried. Too big, moose. She thought of the words she'd heard. But after she let it out, she started to see things more clearly. She decided to make a little more space for herself and began to see a way out. She brought their words to them. These are yours. They hurt me. Not everyone understood or even listened. It's just a joke. It's not that serious. You're too sensitive. Some tried. I didn't mean it that way. But they still couldn't understand. I can help you change if you want. No, thank you. I like the way I am. She was not just a girl. She knew she was good. Creative, imaginative, compassionate, gentle, smart, funny, sweet, kind, good. She knew she was just a girl, and she was good. As we consider this story, I want to read you a bit of something Vashti Harrison said in an interview with NPR that I think helps contextualize this story for those of us who may not have had experiences like this growing up. For me, this story was really about the words we give and share with children. And I wanted to make a story that followed a child on a journey towards self-love. But I wanted to start the story at the very beginning, where all children start, in a place of pure self-love. She has every opportunity ahead of her, and all of the excitement and hope that people have for their kids is placed on this little child. And I wanted to showcase how that story can change over time, based on the words that we use to talk to children, and sort of examine how that story changes when those words become negative. You're getting so big. You're growing so much. It is easy for us to invisibly pass along the baggage we have been given. It is easy for us to perpetuate harm that we do not understand. But hopefully, we can encourage ourselves to notice and to listen when we are told, and to always try to be the best people we can be, because all of us can be good. Thank you. May it be so.
As our children follow Sarah Elizabeth to their religious exploration opportunities, please join in singing Longtime Son as printed in your orders of service.
This is the time in our worship service when we share the joys and concerns that are very close to our hearts and our lives. And for anyone who is not able to be here in person on a Sunday morning, I am taking pre-submitted candles, and you can email me at candles@uuneedham.org by the Friday before the service at midnight. And if you're participating on Zoom or YouTube, please type your candle into the chat box to be held by the community watching with you. We have 2 pre-submitted candles today, and both are offered by our staff. The first is that we light a candle of sorrow for the further erosion of reproductive autonomy resulting from this week's Alabama Supreme Court decision that led to the closing of in vitro fertilization clinics in that state. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of women and their ability to make decisions for their own reproductive health. And our second candle is one of deep, deep sorrow. We light a candle for the death of Nex Benedict, a Choctaw gender non-binary student in Oklahoma who was bullied for their gender identity. We offer compassion and sympathy for their family and friends as they grieve Nex's death. May our lawmakers value and protect all life, ending anti-trans and anti-LGBTQ laws that foster a climate of fear and hatred. We light a candle. And now, if you are in the building and have a joy or concern to share, please come forward, light your candle, say your name and your pronouns if you would like, and briefly describe what is on your heart.
Good morning. I'm Janet Klein, she, hers. Last week, I let you know about a Ugandan family that was coming. They arrived on Thursday night and asked if we had anything to share to pass along to them. I have to tell you that I'm overwhelmed and blessed beyond measure that so much has been given. A list here, 15 people. It's a great blessing. I think it's a sign of how much we have to share and how generous and welcoming this community is, and I thank you. I will see Ben, the brother, this afternoon. He's going to pick up the tons of stuff that's in my house. And I will let you know what else they may need. Thank you so much.
Hello, Claire Galkowski, she, hers. I just had an amazing day on Thursday. My daughter was up in New Hampshire with her kids and her husband and her in-laws. My boys live up there, and I went up and spent the day with all 3 of my kids, my 3 in-laws, 3 of my in-laws, my 2 grandgirls, and 3 grand dogs. The only ones who were missing was my husband Jan and his family. But it's a rare occurrence for everybody to get together, so I just wanted to share my joy with you.
Hi there, I'm Tracy Zenjin, she, hers, and I am lighting a candle of, I guess, hope. My niece, who some of you know about, is taking the bar this week for the second time, and she lives with us, and it's been so stressful for her. So I'm so happy that it's almost here, even though it's going to be a very stressful week. And it's very funny because for the last week I've been getting up with her really early to get her ready to get up at 6 a.m. She's one of those people that wakes up at like 2. So it's like this morning I've been up for like 5 hours already. It's amazing. You get a lot done. Anyways, so it's just a candle of hope for her to do well. Thank you.
And now for all the joys and sorrows that remain in our hearts and our prayers of our neighbors near and far, we light a final candle. May the peace of this sanctuary be felt too, wherever you are participating from. As we remember that even though we are worshiping in different times and places, we are all still deeply connected. Will you join me in the spirit of prayer and affirmation? And as you settle your bodies into your pews or your seat, deepen your breathing. And hear these words from multiracial UU minister and military chaplain, Reverend Dr. Rebecca Savage. Spirit of life, eternal mystery that holds us close, receive the meditations of our heart this day. We come together in this quiet moment to unify our hearts again toward the clarion call of our time. May justice and equity guide us to greater connection and greater truth. Our part is just as great to approach dismantling systems of oppression within us in order for all of us to be free. To know that when we cherish and tend to the divine spark within us, when we know in our bones that we are worthy of love and whole just as we are, that there is greater potential for mutual understanding and care. Love is not scarce, yet our ability to extend compassion and grace can be. I place my hand over my heart and know I can feel the spirit of life within me. I invite you to place your hand on your heart and feel the spirit of life within you. The spirit of life is divine within us. The spirit of life is here. This is the beginning of justice and equity, when we go within in order to be of service in our communities and the world. May it be so. Amen. Please remain seated and join in singing our meditative response, There's a River Flowing in My Soul. The lyrics are in your orders of service, on screen, and at number 1007 in your teal hymnals.
This congregation has been supported by the volunteered time and treasure of its members and friends since its founding in 1711. This is the time in our service when we, the modern stewards of the church, offer what we can to build and sustain the congregation and the world we envision. For this Sunday morning, just before we offer a name change clinic for trans and non-binary people, we will share our entire collection with the Massachusetts Transgender Political Coalition, or MTPC. MTPC envisions a world where all trans, non-binary, and gender-expansive people are valued and celebrated, fully participate and thrive in all areas of society, and actualize their full potential and self-determination to shape the future. MTPC educates the public, advocates for trans rights at state, local, and systemic levels, engages in capacity building and leadership training, and advances community wellness and prosperity. Their current programs are the Trans Leadership Academy, Gender Euphoria and Affirmation Services, Relief and Emergency Assistance, and the Identity Document Assistance Network, including their name change clinics, which provides guidance, support, and financial assistance to update legal name and/or gender on federal and state documents. To donate to today's offering, you can use one of 3 different methods as described in detail in your orders of service: using text to give, donating through our website, putting cash or a check in the collection plate, or mailing a check to First Parish. Whichever way you donate, remember to specify whether your donation is meant for the collection or for your annual pledge. And if this is one of your first visits to First Parish, we also encourage you to fill out a yellow card that should be in your pew back. And if not, or if you're online, you can fill out the online visitors form at uuneedham.updates.church. And many thanks to Eileen and Rick Vincent today for our beautiful flowers in loving memory of their parents. Thank you for everything you are able to give to help support and sustain this congregation and the vital work of our community partners. May the ushers please come forward.
Change, come what may. If the good times are all gone, then I'm bound for moving on. I'll look for you if I'm ever back this way. If I get there before the snow flies, and if things are looking good, you could meet me if I send you down the fair. But by then it would be winter, not so much for you to do. And those winds can sure blow cold way out there. 4 strong winds that blow lonely, 7 seas that run high, all those things that don't change, come what may. If the good times are all gone, then I'm bound for moving on. I'll look for you if I'm ever back this way. Still I wish you'd change your mind. If the seas that run high, all those things that don't change, come what may. If the good times are all gone, then I'm bound for moving on. I'll look for you if I'm ever back this way. I'll look for you if I'm ever back this way.
Our reading this morning comes from Black queer writer and performer Danez Smith. This is an excerpt from their poem in 5 parts called After JFK. This poem was written in honor of Diamond Reynolds, who filmed the fatal shooting of her boyfriend, Philando Castile, during a traffic stop in 2016. Reynolds' 4-year-old daughter was in the back seat when a police officer shot Castile 5 times. After he informed the police officer he had a licensed gun in the car. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask if your country is your country. Ask if your country belongs to your country folk. Ask if your country is addicted to blood. Ask if your country is addicted to forgetting. Ask if your country is an oil and power fiend. Ask if your country shakes at night, starving for bodies, if bodies mean your country keeps on being your country in the same old ways. Ask if your country was built of stolen land and stolen breath. If democracy is a chain tight as skin around your neck. Ask if your comfort means elsewhere someone else is burying a daughter. Ask if your comfort means round the corner a man is dead because a cop mistook his body for a gun. Ask if your comfort means broke schools and food deserts on the other side of town. Ask if your new apartment used to belong to someone who couldn't afford to look like you. Ask yourself if all things are scared to admit our shovels slowly filling up a brown boy's throat. All lives don't matter. The same as all lives, some lives matter only to themselves. Some lives matter of fact and some lives up for debate. All lives matter to some, but what about this life is mine? Honey-colored and black as it is. What my life mean to you? Am I talking to you? Do you wish me justice, or do you wish I would just shut up already and vanish already? I don't want America no more. I want to be a citizen of something new. I want a country for the immigrant hero. I want a country where joy is indigenous as the people. I want a country that keeps its word. I want to not be scared to drink the water. I want a country that don't bomb other countries. I want a country that don't treat its people like a virus. I want a country not trying to cure itself of me. I want a country that treats my mama right. I want a land where my sister can be free. I want a country that don't look at me and my man and think about where and how we should earn. I want a nation under a kinder God. I want justice, the verb, not justice, the dream. I want what was promised to me. I want 40 acres and a vote that matters. I want no prisons and a mule. I want all lives to matter. I want to be over with race, but race ain't over me. I want peace, I want equity, I want guns to be melted into a mask, a church, a place for us to pray, and I want to stop praying for my country to be mine, for it to put the gun down, to take back the bomb. Here ends our reading.
All lives matter to some, but some lives are up for debate. We are Unitarian Universalists, and we believe in equity, that every person has inherent dignity and worthiness. We work to co-create communities where each life matters to each other life. We want to be citizens of something new, a country for the immigrant hero, a country where joy is indigenous as the people, a country that don't bomb other countries, a country that don't treat its people like a virus, a country that treats our mamas right where our sisters can be free, a country that don't look at queer folks together and think about where and how they should earn, a nation under a kinder God, justice the verb, not justice the dream, peace, equity. Bringing about this vision of beloved community of people and the earth living in harmony, in justice, peace, and equity requires us to move past greed, scarcity thinking, and creating borders around belonging. I'm choosing the word border carefully, but my iPad just restarted. We're fine. Everything's fine. I'm choosing the word border carefully here as to not confuse that with boundaries. We all need boundaries between ourselves and that which is not ourselves, and those boundaries ought to be respected in covenantal, consensual, healthy relationships. But borders around communities, physical or psychological, hamper the vision of justice, peace, and equity for all. Many human beings fall into the liminal space between their authenticity and full potential and the expectations and constraints of the dominant culture. Between authenticity and full potential and the sometimes violent pressures of conformity. In this kind of liminal space between one's dignity being respected and not, that is where we find the ongoing barriers to access and opportunity for all people to live as themselves, especially those of historically marginalized identities. And liminality, the in-between space, also presents us an opportunity to further break from inequitable cultural norms. Euro-American UU minister, Reverend Dr. Kate Walker, describes this in her poem, In Between. In between invitation and acceptance, in between symptom and diagnosis, in between send and receipt of inquiry and question, in between love given and loved received. Liminality, a letting go, entering into confusion, ambiguity, disorientation. A ritual begun, paused. Look back at what once was. Look forward into what becomes. Identity sheds a layer, reaches into something uncomfortable to wear. Social hierarchies may disassemble and structures may fall. Communities may revolt or tempt trust. Tradition may falter or creativity crashes forward. Leaders may move back or take charge. The people may choose or refuse. At last June's National Denominational Gathering, the Unitarian Universalist Association's General Assembly, local Black scholar and educator Dr. Amani Perry gave the prestigious Ware Lecture. She tailored her lecture to us, Unitarian Universalists, drawing from her personal history of being educated at Cambridge Friends School, Concord Academy, and Harvard, and the impact that historic Concord Harvard Unitarians like Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, Louisa May Alcott had left on her, and the impact of their interactions with and understandings of free Black Concord residents surviving in the woods on the outskirts of town, including near the famed Walden Pond. Dr. Perry said, in Concord, I fit in intellectually in some ways, but to fit intellectually is not the same as fitting existentially. It was quite easy to feel there and in many places in my life like one of those Black so-called squatters in the woods. The truth is, belonging is something jealously guarded and often tiered and stratified here and elsewhere. Stratified belonging is the norm, as terrible as it often is. No child should feel like a squatter in their own community, like they need to be different, smaller, to fit in. Fitting in is not belonging. To continue illustrating stratified belonging, Dr. Perry shared the story of Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, a 19th century Black Unitarian and AME writer and activist. Dr. Perry explained that Watkins Harper offers testimony that is essential for our understanding of the past and present from a liminal space of belonging. Harper was one of the few Black intellectuals of the 19th century who left behind a substantial body of written work, and she spoke about what it meant to be inside and outside at once. Frances Ellen Watkins Harper was born in 1825 to freed Black parents in Baltimore, Maryland, less than 50 miles northeast of the slave state of Virginia. In her 20s, Watkins Harper became a published writer, a teacher in Ohio, and an abolitionist lecturer in Pennsylvania. And then, Dr. Perry said, in 1854, she found she could not return home to Maryland. A law had been passed stating that as a Black person, if you came into Maryland from the North, you could be sold into slavery. So she was technically free. She was educated, and she was forced into exile. She was threatened with unfreedom for returning home. We can see that not just as a metaphor, but a reality for so many people today. UU lay leader Jessica Sapalio wrote in our denominational magazine, The UU World, about the national program she coordinates for the UU Service Committee, the Congregational Accompaniment Program for Asylum Seekers, or CAPAs. She focused on the success story of a Honduran asylum seeker named Rommel, who had been hosted for 3 years by the Boise, Idaho UU congregation. Sapalio wrote, "Seeking safety from persecution, conflict, and abuse is recognized in the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The vast majority of asylum seekers to the United States come from countries that either lack a democratic government or have governments plagued by organized crime, corruption, militarized security forces, and failing institutions." When asked why he sought asylum in the United States, Rommel explained, "I asked for asylum because of my sexual orientation, because of the gangs, and to have a safe life. I asked for asylum to have a better life than in my country." Or we could say Rommel sought to escape unfreedom at home, as is his right under international law. Yet Sapalio continues, when people arrive at U.S. borders, they are often met with hostility, additional trauma, dehumanizing policies, and squalid conditions. To counter this brutality, the CAPA's program partners with communities of faith as they host and accompany immigrant individuals and families, providing a true welcome and working together against the unjust barriers to asylum. Accompaniment through hostile liminal spaces is a beautiful ministry that First Parish and many other houses of worship have and still participate in. It's not doing our nation any good to enforce our borders in such a way that asylum seekers like Rommel struggle for so long to receive legal documentation. Dr. Perry then shared how Frances Ellen Watkins Harper was invited to address the National Women's Rights Convention in 1866, at which time there was an active debate among the participants whether suffragists should support the enfranchisement of Black men, even if that came before white women. So Watkins Harper said, "Justice is not fulfilled so long as woman is unequal before the law. We are all bound up together in one great bundle of humanity, and society cannot trample on the weakest and feeblest of its members without receiving the curse in its own soul. You tried that in the case of the Negro. You pressed him down for 2 centuries, and in doing so you crippled the moral strength and paralyzed the spiritual energies of the white men of the country. Society cannot afford to neglect the enlightenment of any class of its members. You white women speak here of rights. I speak of wrongs. I, as a colored woman, have had in this country an education which has made me feel as if I were in the situation of Ishmael, my hand against every man's and every man's hand against me." Watkins Harper's ongoing liminality of being both insider and outsider was fully present at this convention. Indeed, even in places where Watkins Harper was specifically invited and offered a platform, the wholeness of her being and experience was not honored. And it may have been the same with her religious identity, as she was simultaneously an active Unitarian and African Methodist Episcopalian. Euro-American UU lay leader and engineer Janine Kelly Rosemeyer wrote, "She was reluctant to choose between the two. AME was the church she had been raised in. It was family and home to her, and she always remembered where she came from and what her people had been through." However, Watkins Harper's Christology was certainly Unitarian, and her funeral was held at the First Unitarian Church of Philadelphia, where she was a member. Her reasons for joining the Unitarian Church may have been partly political. Although she had personal and professional contacts in both black and white communities, ever since her first book of poems was published, many doors remained closed to her. In a society where color lines were clearly drawn, a Unitarian church provided a rare opportunity for the races to meet. The Unitarians she knew could help to advance the causes she supported in places she could never go. Though she was theologically a Unitarian, Watkins Harper didn't quite feel like she fit in existentially. We still have borders and barriers today that prevent all like-hearted people from joining our faith tradition. As Dr. Perry said, there's unfortunately a lot of resonance between Frances Ellen Watkins Harper's experience then and the experience of those of marginalized identities today. Just this week, we've seen yet another court decision removing reproductive rights and choices from women and trans men, both to not become parents and to become parents. We've seen an indigenous non-binary teen killed in their own school, beaten in their own school, dying later by their own classmates. We've seen more American bombs dropped on Gazan civilians, and Ukraine has entered their third year of defending their own sovereignty. Dr. Perry concluded her lecture this way: "I know that in the UUA tradition, knowledge and encounter, as opposed to doctrine, are understood as divine matters, right? It's a space where experience and openness are virtues. So then the question comes before us: what do we do when we know about injustice? What do we do when we learn and experience the attacks on our children due to their identities, the attacks on bodily autonomy, the attacks on efforts to address injustice, the attacks on the right to vote in order to speak one's mind in the service of all those who are subject to attack? This moment requires both an extraordinary amount of courage and humility of us in the face of people who oppose knowledge and human dignity. This is where I think the responsibility of an act of faith enters. As Emerson once said, without any shadow of doubt, amidst this vertigo of shows and politics, I settle myself even firmer in the creed that we should not postpone and refer and wish, but do broad justice where we are, to see the effort of that as a movement toward right relation. It is an act of faith to keep a vision of a better country in our minds, hearts, and deeds, to journey through the liminality between what was and what can be, not passively, but as active participants in creating what is to come. Here's the last section of Denise Smith's poem after JFK. Hope is hard, but I have it. I look at students' hands and imagine all that they will mother. Christ, O name I was raised to pray to, O Allah, sweet Lord of my father, O all you gods of my homies and gods of strangers, work together to build us into tools to build anything other world but this. Make us so that we may make us a world we can be grateful for, not grateful in spite of. Let us not be idle or stunned by fear. Let us not be so comfortable that we ignore others' grieving instead of ending what makes her grieve. Let us not be scared of the work because it's hard. Let us move the mountain because the mountain must move. Let us, O lords above us and within, let us be useful to our neighbors and tender their wounds. Let us be more bandage than blade, unless the blade is needed. Let us be a sword against what does not bring us closer to home. Let us be dangerous to that which fails us. And bring us a world good to us, all of us, all us, all us. Amen. Our closing hymn, We Shall Overcome, is an African-American spiritual from the enslavement era that was repopularized during the civil rights movement. Please join in singing We Shall Overcome. The lyrics are in your orders of service on screen at number 169 in your gray hymnals.
We have a few announcements before the end of our service. Please join us for social hour, either in Parish Hall after the service or in our Zoom room for online social hour. Don't forget, we do have a name change event today from 3 to 5, lifting that up, and very excited about it. Tonight there's also Sunday Night Book Club, which is at 7 p.m., and they are discussing The Maid by Nita prose. Lane Lyceum on Tuesday, all about daylight savings, yes or no. Check your bell notes for details. Lunch Bunch with the Minister is on Wednesday at 12:30, and Homegrown Coffee House will be meeting, will have their next event on March 2nd, and Chelsea Berry is the headliner. The Innovation Team next Sunday is hosting a Q&A on March 3rd. The Strategic Task Force has published their final report, and they are now convening conversations about its recommendations as the new Innovation Team seeks your input. And as always, our regular weekly events, Writing Escapes, Vespers, Meditation Ministries on Thursdays, Creative Escapes on Fridays. And please note that Fleet Feet on Wednesdays is on hiatus until we have a stronger sense that spring is actually here. Check the bell notes for all other news and announcements. And now, as we say each week, we always extinguish our chalice with the words, promising to carry its flame in our hearts until we are together again, no matter how long it is until we are all together again. Please join me from home or in the building in saying these words written by UU Minister Reverend Elizabeth Sally Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, nor the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
As we close our worship today, take these words from queer Black writer, doula, and activist Adrienne Marie Brown as a benediction, or as Brown wrote it, a spell to cast upon meeting a stranger, comrade, or friend working for social and environmental justice and liberation. You are a miracle walking. I greet you with wonder. In a world which seeks to own your joy and your imagination, you have chosen to be free every day as a practice. I can never know the struggles you went through to get here, but I know you have swum upstream and at times it has been lonely. I want you to know I honor the choices you made in solitude and I honor the work you have done to belong. I honor your commitment to that which is larger than yourself and your journey to love the particular container of life that is you. You are enough, your work is enough, you are needed, your work is sacred. You are here, and I am grateful. Our service begins when our service ends. Blessed be, and amen.
Let's go drifting through the trees. Let's go sailing on the sea. Let's go dancing on the juke joint floor and leave our troubles all behind and have a party so easily forgotten. All the most important things, like the melody and the moonlight in your eyes, and a song that lasts forever, keeps on getting better all the time. 'Cause life is beautiful, life is wondrous, every star above is shining just for us. Life is beautiful on a stormy night. Somewhere in the world, the sun is shining bright. I get crazy, so afraid that I might lose you one fine day, and I'll be nothing but a tired old man. And I don't wanna be without you at the party, so easily forgotten. The most important thing is that I love you, I do. And I want to spend my days and nights walking through this crazy world with you. Well, life is beautiful, life is wondrous, every star above is shining just for us. Life is beautiful on a stormy night. Somewhere in the world, the sun is shining bright. So easily forgotten, the most important thing I love you, I do. And I want to spend my days and nights walking through this crazy world with you. That's right. Well, life is beautiful, life is wondrous. Every star